Alright guys, welcome. We're talking about Star Wars. Star Wars The Acolyte. Now, any news report you might have heard where there's actors being interviewed about this show that is happening. Apparently there's a bunch of people online that believe it's not and it's all some weird elaborate ruse. They're idiots. This show is filmed. Like, it's 100% happening. In fact, they spent $49.2 million on pre-production. Filed through Company's House. So entirely legit. Company's House in the UK. So they can get tax breaks, basically. But anyway, you may have seen any interview about this show. Anytime anyone talks about it, they don't talk about the actual content of the show. The story. The compelling narrative that you'll be swept up in. No. It's all virtue signaling, in fact. There's a bunch of black people that work on this show, and they've said how, this show is creating a safe space for black people. Yeah, okay, well, Billy D. Williams says otherwise. Like, alright, sure. But now we're getting even more stuff. Not about the narrative that you're going to be, enamored with. No. It's a lack of guns. I mean, what? How is... What? Who is telling the actors and crew that this is the PR that we're looking to push? We won't talk about the show as set. No, we won't talk about that. No, but we will do some random lame-ass virtue signalling. Oh, there's a lack of guns. Who cares? Who honestly cares? Just more virtue signalling. So the Acolyte actress Daphne Keane revealed that the upcoming Disney Plus Star Wars series features a, and I quote, lack of guns. Where's the war part come in then? What are you going to be doing? Just slapping people? God, what a pile of wank this really is. Like, it truly is. Just a bunch of idiots of virtue signalling time after time after time. So speaking of Entertainment Weekly about the action sequences in the upcoming Disney Plus series alongside her co-stars Charlie Bartnett. Let's say that quickly, that's weird. Bartnett. And Manny Jacinto. Jacinto first attempted to hype them up by saying, if you loved that sequence with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, yeah, I think you're going to enjoy this show. And Bartnett would then chime in and says, I will say too, not a shade, but we have a lot more tangible, physical moves than I saw in that fight, as badass as it is. There's a lot more grounded work that goes into our stunt training and our stunt performances. How do you know? You weren't on set for Phantom Menace, were you? So, again, just shit on everything that comes before it. And, I'm no fan of the prequels, but goodness me, I mean that was one of the good things about it, that sequence. But no, they're better. So we have awesome stunt team doing so much without cables, without CGI, without a lot of effects. It makes the fights seem so much more visceral, truly. I mean, I know I've been hit on the head a couple of times. You've been hit in the head a couple of times. A bunch of times. That will be reflected. Oh good, they were hitting each other over the head with foam mallets. Good times. Okay, fine, sure. So your fight sequence is good. But where's the story? What story are you trying to tell? But then Keane chimes in and goes, there's a lack of guns. Which I personally, as someone who loves fighting and stunts and stuff, I love. Because it gives you that body to body, that choreography, that dance feeling. Night fever, night fever. Anyway, it actually looks like a real fight. Oh, well, we'll be the judge of that, won't we? As opposed to just I point and I shoot, which is kind of an easy cop-out in a way. We get a lot of that body-to-body. Alright. I mean, fine, I guess. We have a lot of... We have a lot of the sabers. Weird way of saying it. And the way Chris Cohen and Mark Ginther and Darren Knopp and all these wonderful, wonderful stars we have choreographed it in such a beautiful way. It's like visually stunning. We watched some stuff the other day and it was just gorgeous. And then we have a bunch of fights as well where there are no sabers, where it's just full on. Yeah, I can't say much, but it's also really fun and does look really just gritty and real. It feels like a fight. Where's the story? Give me something. Narrative. What story are you telling? What is she wearing as well? Jesus. Anyway, this is a fashion review. Keen's revelation that the series will feature a lack of guns or blasters comes in the wake of the series creator Leslie Headland telling Entertainment Weekly that the series does not feature an actual war. I would say that the Acolyte stands out because it is the earliest in the Star Wars timeline that we have ever been in live action. We are toward the end of the High Republic, leading into George's prequels, so we're looking at a time period where the Jedi are at the height of their power. We're looking at a timeline where there is peace throughout the galaxy, and it was very challenging and interesting to make a Star Wars with no war in it. So the question became, well, what should the show be about if it's not going to be about galactic conflict? You're asking that as you're making it. Oh my god. These people. And she would go on to tease what the answer is to the question is. And I think that, that's what makes this show different and interesting, is that it's from the perspective of the bad guys or the villains of Star Wars. These are people who are using the Force in their own way, dipping into the darker sides of the Force, and are doing it without being sanctioned by the larger institution, which, in this case, is the Jedi. Kind of sounds like she's siding with them, to be honest. I think that the Star Wars is always about some version of the underdog versus the institution. What? You're mental. Star Wars is always about some underdog versus the institution. Are you high? And I just thought it was very interesting to do a show about the bad guys, and to set that during that time period made the most sense. So I think that's what sets it apart. It's kind of being flipped. We have no more Jedi than you've seen in any of the other Star Wars content, but at the same time, I think you see more morally ambiguous characters than you've seen in other Star Wars content. And I can say, and this is pretty confidently, I don't think you're going to see action in the shows the way you see it used and utilised in our show. Wow, this sounds like utter poo. Anyway, this is absolute crap. Tease the story. What's the story? What are you doing? What is it? What's the story that you're telling? What are you... What? Oh, God. Anyway, no guns. More virtue signalling. More crap. Give me a story. Give me something... Narrative. Sell the narrative. And bearing in mind, remember, they released that trailer at Star Wars Celebration. So proud of it, aren't they, that it definitely got released online. Joke, that's sarcasm, of course it didn't. So they're clearly trying to bury this, in some regards anyway. Anyway, let me know what you think down below. I thought you'd find this funny. I did. Take care. Bye-bye now.